Hello friends, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and welcome to this is an Embers of Drift video, but it's based on a couple of requests I've had. A few of you have asked me what's happening with previous MMOs I've played. Am I going back to them? I think the Embers of Drift question was, what do I think about it with all the changes and stuff that have happened recently? So I thought I would cover that. First of all, what I would say is that the game is going kind of free to play stroke pay to win at some point. I think it's the end of this month, end of June. They're removing that. You still need to buy the box, but they're removing the subscription. But there are some limitations if you don't subscribe. So there's a non-subscriber model and a subscriber model. Non-subscriber, I think one of the limitations is you only get one character slot, which is quite a big one actually, in my opinion. Particularly for a game that doesn't allow you to do all of the crafting and all of the gathering. So you're either reliant on other players, or as the majority of people found, you're reliant on yourself because there's not a population there to support, like the economy really for that kind of thing. That's quite a big thing. But yeah, so you will be able to play the game without a subscription, but there are some limitations. The character slots kind of being the biggest one, I think, probably. And I think it's pay to win. I feel this about all games. Even with a subscription, whether it's Project Gorgon, World of Warcraft, whatever, Shroud of the Avatar, any game that's got a subscription where you get benefits, it's pay to win, and this game is following that model. I'm not sure how that will impact things. I don't think that. I think that, as I said, I was asked what I think about the game now with all the changes and stuff, but the issue was that wasn't why I stopped playing the game originally. I didn't mind the fact that there wasn't a lot of content available. I didn't mind the fact that there was a cost involved for buying the box and for the subscription. It was the fact that the game just requires unreasonable, incredibly unreasonable level of time for you to do anything in the game. It was as simple as that. Even and I'm afraid the argument that it's based on classic MMOs, go back to WoW type argument, doesn't work, because all I really play on emulation are classic MMOs. I've currently got EverQuest in two forms, TAC-P and P99. Star Wars Galaxies I've got 3 servers installed at the moment for that. I've got an Asheron's Call server installed. City of Heroes, it's all I play, so that excuse doesn't wash really. These current kind of indie MMOs are going far beyond what the requirement was for a game, for a player in one of these games with regards to time. I did some quick maths on the footage that you're seeing here was taken from a recent free weekend, and I logged in just to get the footage for this video. I probably won't log in again. I might try the non-sub thing when it comes out just to see what numbers are like and stuff. But yeah, I did some quick maths on the back of a receipt, and I think I was kind of looking at killing like 200 or 300 mobs to get through a level 14. I think I'm level 14 in this video. Totally unreasonable, and like I was looking at a couple of guys a few months ago in the Discord were saying that they were level, I think one of them was like mid-20s, and he was saying that he'd worked it out roughly that he needs about, I think it was about 1400 mobs just to get through that level, like mid-20s. Another player kind of confirmed those numbers as well. That's what they were finding. As I said before in the video, I don't know where these numbers have come from. I don't know how they've worked out the mob kill amount per level. I don't know what it's based on. It's not based on EverQuest, for example. When I played EverQuest, when I was seriously playing P99, probably a couple of years ago now, I leveled a shaman through level 54. And I kind of made a note just as an experiment, just to see, because people talk about level 54 in EverQuest being an uber hell level, and I think I worked it out to, I think it was roughly 4 to 5 mobs per 1% of experience, and so 4 to 500 mobs, say, roughly at those levels. Like my kill time per mob wasn't particularly long, because by the time you get to that level, obviously we're well kitted out, so it's not as though you can kill however many mobs are required in the 40s in Embers of Drift really any quicker than the mobs you can kill in EverQuest at that kind of level. So yeah, it was quite shocking. I don't know where they got numbers from, and I don't know who, apart from a tiny minority, I don't really know who they're expecting is going to be up for that. You know, most of us classic MMO players are not up for it. That's obvious by the population numbers that the game has had, and the fact that they've had to give us a non-subscription option just to get more people in playing the game, get numbers in. You know, it's I don't know where numbers have come from, but that's the kind of thing that drove me away from the game. Also, again, as from a time point of view, the way that the game just took me out of my gameplay loop too often. I mean, I quite enjoyed the gameplay loop, like going around, like gathering, killing mobs every now and again, doing a bit of crafting, that kind of thing. But when you combine like the very limited inventory space along with the fact that your maximum stamina goes down the fact it goes down at all is a problem. It goes down far too quickly, and the fact that your equipment also gets damaged means that basically you've got three things there that potentially are going to keep taking you out of your gameplay loop every so often, and that so often is just far too soon. You know, I spent more time like running around the world trying to. The fact that travelling is quite slow as well, and there's very limited fast travel. I spent my time running around the world trying to fix these problems that the game has thrown at me, as opposed to actually playing and enjoying the game. And I don't understand it. I don't understand the design. You know, there are some things you can say. If I pick another game, for example, like Project Gorgon, like people, in that game, you've got there are a number of examples, but if you say lycanthropy, so if you catch that, you can turn into a werewolf. But for 3 days, for the full moon period in IRL, which I think is a really cool idea, you're just a wolf, you know. And some people started to find that quite annoying. But I can understand it because it's such a cool idea, like linking that in with the real world. That, I mean, to be honest with you, after a while, even I got a bit sick of having to spend time as a werewolf whenever the full moon came around. But I can appreciate it as a cool idea from a design point of view. But from Embers of Drift point of view, like the more I played it, the more I just didn't understand the design at all. I didn't quite understand why the design felt so anti-player. And I know that there are people playing it and enjoying it, but it's clearly a minority, a very, very small minority. And it seems as though with the change that they're making, it's not sustainable, you know. So they're hoping. I'm assuming what they're hoping is that more people come in, even though you've still got to buy the box. Which, you know, if a month or two sub is a roadblock for some people. Then I don't see how buying the box is still not going to be the same roadblock. Maybe they're hoping that all the players that bought the game previously will come back and they will sub up. But I know from what you guys have told me, and from reading the Discord and the forums over a period of time, that, you know, these were not necessarily. It was obviously a problem, but things like the subscription and the lack of content wasn't really the reason why many people stopped playing the game. It wasn't the reason I stopped playing the game. And I know that I know that many of you also said to me that they weren't the reasons particularly. You were concerned about them, but you thought that they would get sorted out in the future, which it seems as though they are kind of doing. But yeah, it was just the way that the game just requires far too much of people who. The thing is that the target audience now just don't have much time, you know. And you'll get some people who will find the time. Okay, if you're a parent at home and you got kids and you're in your 30s or whatever it is, and you played EverQuest and you want a similar experience but with a new coat of paint, you know, maybe you'll put your kids somewhere in another room playing, and you'll be between what you're doing, you'll come and play a game, you'll come and play and whatnot. Maybe you're happy with that. But most people just don't have the time for that, from whether it's work or parenting or whatever it may be. And so the target audience for this game, and it is the target audience, you know, the game says that it's aimed at like a classic MMO audience, but it's kind of really not, you know. It's because those players don't have as much time as they used to have, and it's not as though the the player base is very young. I'm sure there are a few young players playing the game, but the player base is not very young. I would say it's kind of like 30s up to my age, I would say, and maybe a bit older. So the game is kind of not for those players. So as I said, that's why I've never understood the design choices, because I don't understand who the game is for. It feels like the game is for people who are not really interested in making any progress. They're happy to just log in and faff about, and clearly that is a vast minority of players, of classic MMO players, because that's what games are all about, is progress. And when I say people who are not interested in progress, I know someone will say, oh, well, I'm making progress, and that's not my point. My point is that it takes so long to get anywhere that you've got to be willing to invest a lot of time consistently, like a lot of time, to get anywhere, and that's just not what most people are willing to do. So that's why I say that many of the players, many of the players you see in the game have been playing from the start. Many of the special purple and orange names on the Discord are always, when everyone goes in there and says, bloody hell, this game's really slow, isn't it? Oh, well, it's meant to be slow, go back to WoW. Those kind of people. Some of those people are kind of not even, still in their like 20s or something, I think, from what I see. So there are people in the game who are just not really making any progress because progress is so slow and they don't have the time, but they're willing to carry on playing the game. So that's why I feel that the game is for people who are just not really interested in progress. But as we all know, this game takes some of its beats from like Dungeons and Dragons, but even Dungeons and Dragons was about progress. That's what all role-playing games are about. A significant part of a role-playing game is your character, as your role within the world, within the game, or your class, whatever you want to call it, and how you progress through the world to experience to have different experiences is what it's all about. But the problem is that Embers of Drift was designed to be like a tabletop D&D experience, but that doesn't translate to a computer game, unfortunately. You can't expect people to play for a year on just logging in now and again because they like logging in and making that kind of experience. That's not what people want. It's just not. And obviously this experience is very different from going around your friend's house a couple of times a week and playing D&D. It's a completely different experience. You don't mind it in that regard because you're socialising IRL with your friends. You're having a drink, ordering a pizza or a kebab, as we used to do in our group. That doesn't translate at all to a computer game, and so people just are not willing to invest that time in a computer game where, for better or for worse, we expect things to happen quicker, not instantaneous, as the same people on Discord will try and convince you of. If you don't like this type of game, it means that you only like WoW. That's clearly not the case, and it's just a straw man, really. But yeah, that kind of feels that that's what the game is designed around, but it hasn't translated into an MMO, unfortunately. And I think the population shows that, and so we're in a situation where they're having to drop the subscription to get people in, albeit with quite harsh limitations. I feel, but maybe some of those players who come back and try it again, and then maybe they'll sub up and whatnot. I just, as I said before, though, like my reasons for not playing the game were very similar to what many of you said to me about it as well. And I don't think that this change will keep people kind of long term. I kind of feel that 3-6 months, even before that, like down the line, I think we'll just see people drop off again because they're not willing to sit at a camp killing the same mob over 1,000 times to level. It's not a reasonable expectation for an MMO. I think there's a balance there, obviously. People vehemently arguing against a modern MMO experience, whatever that happens to be, I don't know anymore. Don't want that, and I think most classic players that I talk to don't want that. But what they also don't want is this. There has to be some kind of in between. And I think when you're having to kill like over three times as many mobs as you did in EverQuest to get through level 54, to get through level 20, mid 20s in your game, I just feel that you've got the balance completely off, and that would be. I'm not looking at the data, and I'm pretty sure that the developers would contradict it because they would have to. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if the vast majority of the players who have played the game and logged in probably stopped playing before they got to 20. I would probably say most of them stopped playing before they got to mid-20s. The vast majority. And I imagine that the people that go past 25 are the very, very small amount of people who, just seem to be up for logging in every now and again, and progress isn't really an issue. But as I said, it's not, these arguments about, again, you'll hear similar arguments about it's not about the destination, it's the journey. But even in D&D, it was about the destination. When we played D&D, and I played D&D back in the early 80s, first edition, then second edition, and I played in a number of groups, and the thing that all of those groups, the thing that the people in all, like, we had good DM, so we loved the DM, we loved the story, we loved being in our group and playing and having a laugh and that kind of thing. But the one thing that everyone also was very, very keen on was leveling and equipment and progress, and because that's what it's all about. But as I said before, when you're sitting with your friends around a table and you're drinking beer and you're eating pizza or whatever it may be, it's a social gathering that happens once or twice a week, so you don't really care how quickly it goes. That doesn't translate into a computer game, unfortunately, and I think Embers of Drift has proved that point. Even though they're obviously doggedly sticking to their vision, irrespective, I kind of feel that most MMOs that are out at the moment will stick to their vision until they die. They're just not. It's kind of a case of being too close to your own work, your own art. We've all been there. I've been guilty of it in jobs before, where I've been working on projects, quite big projects, and someone will go, "Ooh, I'm not sure about that," and you're like, "What? I've been working on this project for bloody 6 months. What you talking about?" It's perfect. Obviously, when you look back, it's not perfect. There are issues, and you need to be adaptable, and you need to be able to admit to yourself that maybe these are not the right decisions, they're not working. But in my experience so far, of many of the indie MMOs that I've played, the people are not willing to move from that, and they're willing to just have a very, very small game that is exactly how they want it to be, which I guess that's up to them at the end of the day. What can you do? We're not. It's clear that those of us who are looking for this sort of game are not going to change our mind. I think the developers of all these games are just set in their ways, and they're willing to struggle along, I guess. I always wonder financially how these things work. I'm not sure if the people maybe have second jobs. I understand that the teams are small, but even if you've got like half a dozen or 10 staff members, like how do you afford to pay? Maybe you don't pay them. Maybe it's kind of like voluntary. I don't understand how these games work. Maybe these games are getting some investment from somewhere, maybe. But the investment's obviously not showing a return. The thing is like I've got no idea what wages are like in America, for example. But if you say you had 10 staff and you paid them $1,000 a month, it's not going to be that. That's ridiculous, But so you would need enough subscribers to have at least $10,000 a month to pay them with, and then all of the other costs involved. I don't know. Maybe a lot of people are just doing it. Maybe they've got nothing else to do. Maybe they don't need to do it. Maybe they're doing something. Maybe they do this, but they've got another job or something. I don't know. Yeah, it's maybe that's how it works. I've always wondered how they manage to keep going. When you've got games that have clearly got just such a small subscriber base, but maybe they don't need to. Maybe they're living lives where it's anyway. I'm not analysing their lives. Enough of that. To sum up, what do I think now Embers just has had a load of content added and had some changes and stuff? I feel exactly the same as I felt previously, and I won't be returning to the game because I think this game, along with some of the other indie MMOs currently available are just asking too much of people from a time investment point of view. You shouldn't have to sit there killing deer or bears. You shouldn't have to sit in the judging over the fact that there's 50 levels. You shouldn't have to sit killing over 1,000 bears or deer or bandits to get a level, even in level 40s, let alone the 20s. So I don't understand. I don't understand the game design. You know, it feels anti-player, and I feel that the people who are doggedly sticking with it and playing it are, I just there because it's maybe they genuinely enjoy it. I don't know, to a certain extent. I often feel that there's as I said before, you get a bit of big fish in a small pond syndrome with people. I've seen that a lot in MMOs, you know, where it's always the very, very tiny vocal minority that you always see on the Discord or in the forums or whatever. It's always the same people. Maybe that's what they like. Maybe they like being that big fish, that recognisable fish in a small pond. I don't know. Maybe not interested in progress, in which case, yeah, that's fine. I don't know what to say. I don't know why you play a role-playing game and not be particularly interested in progress and not be bothered if you're not progressing that much. I don't know. As I said, I don't understand it. So that's it. But the game is going free to play buy box to play pay to win in the future. This weekend, I think, probably. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you again soon.